Welcome to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. I'm your host, Marie, a courage coach, creative soul, and adventure seeker. Since through hiking the Pacific Crest Trail in 2019, I'm on a mission to help you embrace your most confident self so you can achieve your dreams too. If you're eager for deep conversations, big questions, and meaningful connections, join me on the quest to discovering how we can create a more magical and memorable life. Hello, nerds! How are you? I hope you're good. I'm doing good too. Thank you for asking. Today, I want to talk about a feeling that's very popular amongst my clients because most of my clients are women. Guess what it is? Or I guess you don't have to guess because it's probably written in the title. I want to talk about guilt. First, I'm going to talk about how it gets in our way. Then, I'm going to talk about what it is and where it comes from, how to handle it, and I'm going to finish with debunking 3 myths about guilt. Okay? Are you ready? Aye, aye, Captain. That's SpongeBob, right? I'm going a little bit insane today. It's the end of the day. So let's focus. Okay, guilt. How does it get in the way? What I see most often is people want to avoid feeling guilt, so they are never going to put themselves first, and they're going to people please instead. So that puts a glass ceiling on top of what they can experience in their life, which is a shame. It's you live a safe life where you don't want to feel anything uncomfortable. You don't want to risk feeling something like guilt. So you're going to say yes to everyone. You make everyone happy except yourself. Or you're going to decide to put yourself first. And that's what my clients do. I am finally putting myself first, but be engulfed by feelings of guilt. And that's not better because it makes it really hard to enjoy yourself. You put yourself first but feel awful about it, so it's not helping you feel free. That's why I wanted to record this episode. What would it be like if you could just put yourself first, do what you want to do without that feeling of guilt? What would be there? So much freedom and peace and lightheartedness. I want you to taste that, to be able to do something for yourself without thinking about what you should be doing instead. If you were a good friend or if you were a productive worker, just want you to be present in what you're doing and guilt to give you some peace for once. So, what is guilt? Where does it come from? And how do we move on? Guilt is a feeling caused by your thoughts. Feel like I'm repeating myself from one episode to the other, but it's the truth. So it's a feeling caused by ingrained beliefs from your social conditioning. Okay, beliefs are just groups of thoughts. So thoughts that often cause guilt start with I should or I should not. So the first step is to figure out the thought that's making you feel guilty. Fill in the blank. I want to blank, but I think I should blank. For example, I don't want to babysit, but I think I should be a good friend and say yes. Otherwise, I'm going to feel guilty. I want to make a lot of money, but I should be more humble about that. I want to hike the PCT, but I shouldn't be so selfish. Then once you've found the thought that creates the feeling of guilt, figure out the belief that's hiding underneath by asking, okay, well, what's so bad about what you want? Let's take the, you don't want to babysit your friend's baby. What's so bad about that? Well, Marie, good friends should always want to babysit their friends' babies. Okay, that's a belief. What's so bad about wanting to make a lot of money? Well, talking about money is impolite and makes people uncomfortable. Interesting. And what's so bad about wanting to hide the PCT. What's so bad about that? Well, Marie going away from my partner for so long is careless and irresponsible. Okay, find out the belief that's driving you to think this way. Basically, these beliefs are just part of your rule book, the rule book that you've been given as a child and that you've built upon in your life. And the first thing we want to do is be aware of the existence of that rule book and to know that it's just one rule book. It's not the rule book. And you can write a new edition, a more intentional one. I know it's easy to lead your life based on what one book says. That's why so many people do it, and I've always done it. But there is so much power in realizing that you can rewrite that book for yourself, and that every individual can have their own book that makes them feel at home within their lives. So do this 3-step process. 1, get really specific about the belief that's making you feel guilty. Interrogate that belief. That's number 2. And then number 3, consciously decide if you're going to discard it or keep it into the book. I'm going to give you an example. I have to spend more time with my child. I want to take time for me, but I should be spending more time with my child. Okay, we want to figure out what is the exact rule here that you're following, that you're trying to follow. If we were going to use it in a court of law, what are the specifics? So you can ask yourself, okay, well, how much time is enough time? What do I mean when I say I should spend more time with my child? Oh, well, I mean, every time they want to hang out, I should be available. Okay, why is that? Well, because if I don't, they're going to think I don't love them and I'm a bad parent. Okay, so the exact rule is I have to say yes every time my child wants to hang out, otherwise they will think I don't love them. That's what's written in your book. Then step number 2, interrogate that belief. Ask yourself, is this my truth? Do I want to keep believing that? Is this something I can stand by? Is this something I am proud of? Does this honor my highest self? If the answer is yes, I want to keep believing this, then you leave it in the book. Otherwise, we're going to make up a different belief. Okay, but I want to say that it's okay to choose you want to keep a belief that makes you feel guilty. It's okay to feel guilty. Let's say you made a mistake. Let's say you think I should not have cheated on my partner because one of your beliefs is you should be loyal to your partner. It's okay to say, yes, I stand by this belief and I feel guilty. I should not have killed this person. My belief is we don't kill people. Therefore, I feel guilty. Okay? We don't want to avoid guilt at all costs. We just want to make sure that the reason we're feeling guilty is a reason that we can stand by. Just don't let yourself feel guilty without interrogating why you feel guilty and validating. So let's say you decide that the belief I should always be available to hang out with my child is not one that you want to carry on believing. Then you ask yourself how you could see this differently. Okay, how is this not true? What else could be true? In what ways am I spending the perfect amount of time with them? What would be honoring of them and honoring of me? You can also ask yourself, how do other people do this? How do other people see this? Are there other lenses I can look at this from? My mom went back to work really early after my sister and I were born. And she didn't breastfeed us. She gave us the bottle. That's what felt right to her. That's what felt empowering. That's what served her. And she also gave us a lot of love and made sure we were supported and cared for. And we're really close today. She's a very independent woman. I admire her for that. I admire how she makes her own choices And if she wants to go on a trip to Vietnam and my dad doesn't want to because he likes his comfort, she's going to find friends to go with her, or she's going to go on her own. She wants to do a long distance hiking course. She's just going to do it. She's not going to care about her age and what people are going to think. She's just going to go for it. So don't let yourself be bogged down by what people think you should be like, what people think you should do. Decide what you want to do. Because if you go with what feels true to you, that's when you're going to be the best version of yourself. And that's what matters most. If we keep going with the breastfeeding example, that's one I'm very passionate about. Because nowadays we have evidence that it's better for the baby, and there is a lot of pressure put on parents to breastfeed their babies. But that's not the best answer for everyone. And I've heard many parents say, oh, we are made to feel guilty if we don't breastfeed. I understand that. It must be really hard to hear the nurses and the other parents go on and on about how that's what you should do. And I know it comes from a good intention. But keep in mind that others cannot make you feel guilty. It's your thoughts about what they say that makes you feel guilty. So if you feel guilt, it's probably because you think something like, oh, maybe they're right. Maybe I should do that. When you're just as free to think, you know what? Thank you for your information. I have made my decision. I know what's best for me and my baby. I'm the expert of my own journey. I trust myself. I love myself. I love my baby. Think what you want to think, and we're going to come back on that, but keep in mind that others cannot make you feel guilty. So, I've stepped away from what I was saying, but if we go back where I was, choose intentionally what you want to believe. Then write that in the new edition of your rulebook. All right? I'm going to give you another example, and then we're going to jump into deconstructing 3 myths. So one of my clients started a new job, and that job took so much of their time, but they loved it. They loved it, loved it, loved it. Meanwhile, their partner was getting frustrated because they were no longer spending as much time with them because they had work sometimes in the evenings and they wanted to get better on the weekends. So they brought that to one of our coaching calls and they said, I feel guilty. They want me to spend more time with them. I should spend more time with them. But at the same time, I love the new career I'm building. All right, so let's go through the 3-step process I told you about earlier. Step 1, get really specific about the belief. So the thought that made them feel guilty is I should be spending more time with my partner. What's the belief there? What's the belief in their rule book that makes them feel guilty? It's something along the lines of you should always be available for your partner. You should be there. You should spend weekends with your partner. Something like that. I'm not in their head, so I don't know exactly, but something like that. Then you interrogate the belief. Is that something I want to keep subscribing to? Do I want to keep believing I always need to be there with my partner every weekend? Or is there something else I'd rather believe? Consciously decide what is the rule in your new rule book. That client, they decided, I want to prioritize this new career and I want a partner who supports me in that. We are going to spend time together. We're going to be intentional about spending quality time together, but I don't need to be next to them all the time. That's the belief that they chose. Now, that's going to be different for everyone. There's no right or wrong. You get to decide what you want to believe and go with it. So the 3 steps are get really specific about what the belief is in your rule book. Then interrogate that belief. Ask yourself, do I want to keep believing this? Could it be different? What would be honoring of me, who I am, who I want to be? And then consciously decide if you're going to discard it or keep it in the book. Okay? You're the editor-in-chief of your own Bible. Now, Let's look at 3 common myths and discuss them. Number 1, it's selfish to put yourself first. I'm going to do a whole episode about selfishness, so I'm not going to go in too deep here. What I'm going to say, though, is you're not serving anyone if you show up feeling resentful, okay? You want to fill up your reservoir and then show up. You're going to give much higher quality presence if you have served yourself first. It's pretty obvious. We hear about this on the plane, put your mask on before you put someone else's mask on, but somehow we find it hard to truly integrate. We need to mechanically integrate this in our life so that we eventually truly understand the benefit. Myth number 2. In order not to feel guilty, you need to not care about other people's feelings. That's not true. That's not true. Let's take breaking up with a partner as an example. Of course, if you break up your partner and you see them being heartbroken, of course you're going to feel sad. But that doesn't mean you're going to feel guilty. If you've carefully looked at your shoulds, at your beliefs, and you can 100% stand by your reason for making that decision, then you're probably not going to feel guilt. I'm going to say that again. You're not going to feel guilt if you've carefully looked at your reason for doing something and you can 100% stand by that reason. If you feel guilty, it means you have not completely convinced yourself that you're right in doing so. In that case, you can either learn to just live with the remaining guilt, or you can sit down and work on, why is this really the right thing for you to do? What's going to become possible if you choose to do that and sell yourself on the idea? When I broke up with my ex in the UK, I felt sad, for sure. But I could stand 100% by my decision to move back to Canada because I wanted a life closer to my family. So I didn't feel guilt about leaving him. I felt sadness. I think that's different. And lastly, 3rd myth is other people can make you feel guilty. I talked about this a little bit with the breastfeeding, but I want to give you other examples to prove that other people cannot make you feel guilty. My cousin was telling me a story about how his mom showed up at his place to make him feel guilty because he didn't go to one of her friend's funeral. I said to him, she didn't make you feel guilty, she just told you how she felt. And he said, no, she wanted to make me feel guilty. But even if her intention had been to make him feel guilty, he doesn't have to feel guilty. It's the same for you. Even if someone's trying to make you feel guilty, like a friend telling you you're not spending enough time with them, you don't have to feel guilty. What makes you feel guilty is not what someone says, is your thought about what they say. So if you think they're right, if you let them be right, yes, you might feel guilty, but you can also decide what you want to believe. With my cousin's example, he might decide to believe that, yes, he should have been to the funeral and feel guilty and accept that guilt, but he doesn't have to accept that guilt by default. He can also decide to believe, I didn't know it was important to her, I know for next time, and then feel sadness maybe that he wasn't there for her, but not guilt. If a friend tells you you're not spending enough time with them, you also get to decide what you want to believe. Do you think they're right or not? If you think, I'm spending the perfect amount of time with you, then that's what you're allowed to believe. And how does that make you feel? It makes you feel fine. It makes you feel okay. That doesn't mean you don't acknowledge how they feel. They might feel sad. They might miss you. But you don't have to make it mean anything about yourself. You don't have to make it mean that you're a bad friend and feel guilty about that. You get to decide. Okay, so take back the responsibility and don't go around saying people make you feel guilty. Yes, some people are annoying. Some people have annoying comments. I give you that for sure. But you always have the freedom to decide what you want to believe. And I mean, sometimes your guilt tells you a little something about yourself. If you feel guilty, it might mean you're not in complete alignment with the person you want to be. So use that feeling as information, valuable information to learn about you, about your truth, about what's important to you. All right, I think that's it for this week. Let's see. We look at what is guilt. It's a feeling caused by your thoughts. We looked at how to interrogate those beliefs and decide if you want to keep them or get rid of them. And lastly, we deconstructed 3 popular myths about guilt. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope this will help you feel a little less guilty. Unless you've done something like harm a kitten, then you should definitely feel guilty. Okay, that got a little dark, so I'm gonna let you go for this week. All right, have a beautiful, guilt-free week, and I will talk to you soon. Bye! You just listened to the Self-Growth Nerds podcast. Make sure to subscribe and to find me on Instagram at Self-Growth Nerds. If you want individual help developing the confidence to create a more meaningful and exciting life, visit selfgrowthnerds.com today to learn how. Finally, I want to thank my friend Etienne Galano for editing this, and I want to thank you, kind-hearted souls, for growing into your truest, most courageous selves every day and making this world a better, more beautiful place. My name is Marie, and I will talk to you next week.